The breakout stars,
Early on in day 3 of the draft, the Pirates called.
the wild moments, and the prospects you need to know about.
A sub-3 ERA in both single and double A.
This is Minor League Weekly, your inside look at the future of the game.
Yeah, doing well. It's just great to have all levels of baseball playing, not only just the minors, not only just the majors, but also college. It's really rolling as well too. We had some crazy results in college baseball throughout this past weekend, so it's been exciting to follow that. It's just good because when it's baseball season, there's always something to look forward to every single day. If your team had a bad game yesterday, all right, there's probably another game going on tomorrow. If you're tired of watching your major league team, if they're disappointing you, go down to AAA, go see what's going on over there. Go down to AA, go and see what's going on over there. Especially go on to AA tomorrow. I think there might be a familiar face on one of those AA broadcasts on Valley Live. But it's really a great time of year to be able to enjoy. Weather's getting warmer as well. I'm gearing up for Delmarva Shorebirds home opening series. I'll be headed over there on Saturday for the fireworks night. So I'm looking forward to getting my first bit of minor league baseball action in person this year too, coming up this week. Yeah, I think it's important to think about what type of player you are and what's the most important to you personally. And that's how that decision can be made. We think about some other younger prospects that also signed long term deals. I think of Samuel Basayo as well from the Orioles. And there's been many other people who have as well, too. The thing with that is it makes sure that you always have money secured no matter if there are injuries that happen. What if you slump in the big leagues and you kind of hang in between Major League Baseball and AAA? We saw, Jackson Holiday first time he came up, he had some struggles in the big league. Started like 1 for 30 something in the big leagues and got sent back down to Norfolk. And he eventually got back up, of course, to the major league level. but it also was very difficult to have to, move back down, had all that hype going in, and then you kind of lose some of that steam and lose some of that momentum. Right now, Griffin is a hot name, and I also am chuckling to myself because I made that whole video about top players to watch in AAA, and it's only relevant for a few days because he gets called up immediately. And then I had the same thing with Max Clark. He got called up to AAA at the beginning of the season from AA. So that was really cool that, yeah, I posted these are guys to watch in these levels, and then you snap your fingers and they're already up to the next level. But I think it's good if you can have a sure thing, and that's something that's really important to you, to your family, to have this big contract. I think it's good. And then there's still chances if you can really have some longevity in your career, you can still have an opportunity to earn an even bigger contract on the next time. That's the benefit of moving up into Major League Baseball when you are very young, when you're under that age of 22, under the age of 23. So even when your contract comes in, you can still play some good baseball into your 30s. We've seen some position players that have been able to maintain that power. Even if the defense maybe goes down a step, they can transition to different areas defensively as well. But right now, Griffin is here. It's good for the Pirates because it shows that their fans like, hey, we are really committed to a guy that's going to be the face of our franchise. And my goodness, I got to watch most of this series this past weekend, and it just felt electric. Every time he came in, you could just feel the energy in the stadium. You can feel the passion that they have, and just the way that the city of Pittsburgh has embraced this guy. There was a time where he got hit by a pitch in the game, and I think everybody lost their minds in the crowd because that's their guy. That's their guy now. So I just think it's really exciting for Pirates baseball that not only do you have some really good faces of the franchise in your pitching staff with Paul Skeens, of course, but also Bubba Chandler, who had a pretty good first start. Showcasing some of his athletic ability and his red start, which was really cool to see. But then following that along with now having Konnor Griffin to headline that offense with some veteran guys like, Reynolds, like Ryan O'Hearn, who had a good series this past weekend as well. So I just think it shows a lot of commitment on both fronts for the team. They show commitment to, their young stars and shows the city that, hey, we're committed to having a winning product. And then for Griffin's sake, it gives them that opportunity to get something secured, and there's still opportunities for extensions later on as well too. You can renegotiate potentially, and if the team doesn't want to renegotiate after your time is done, if you're still playing really good ball, you can still make some good earnings, and you can get earnings off the field with endorsements, and you're locked into Pittsburgh. So I think all these different things in Pittsburgh are going to have promotions, and you're going to be the face of a lot of different commercials. So there's opportunities for more revenue. So I think that's my take on it. What's your take on it, Cory? Exactly. Good point on how the average in MLB, so like your batting average that used to be, routinely near 300 is like a really good mark. Now 280 is kind of that good mark of having a really good season batting. And as you mentioned, as the pitching continues to grow and get better, there still will always be good hitting, but the threshold for what is defined as good hitting is going to change. But that doesn't mean that financially, the way that people view it from how they're going to be paying people out is going to change along with it, at least at the same time or at the same rate. So locking in something early on, I think it's good. And it just takes away some pressure here too, as he goes on. Right now, of course, he's young. He got that our first hit out of the way immediately, which is always a big deal. But that was, I believe, his only hit of the series, was that hit. With the RBI double for his first career hit. But now it kind of takes away some of that thing if he goes on a slump, if he does have to go to AAA, you can feel a bit more confident about, hey, I could just go back to work. And if I need to go back up, I'll be able to go back up. But I don't think he's going to be having any struggles anytime soon. I think he's ready for what's coming up next. I really like how he handled this moment. And I think he made a really good decision, and he should feel happy, and so should his family and all his loved ones. Yes. Yeah, good question. I think it's interesting because for us, as analysts of the game or people that like to talk baseball every once in a while, we kind of live and die by our prospect rankings and our prospect system. But we have to know that major league teams do not apply the same logic or same system that we do, more than likely. Yeah, they might say, like, Jesus Mate has the highest ceiling of anybody. But right now, if let's say you're a GM or you're a part of the front office staff for the Brewers, and your opportunity and what you're thinking is, who's going to help us right now, 2026, and we need to prioritize that. We still, of course, have plans for what's going to be going down, but right now we are about the here and the now, and the here and the now is what are we going to do now in 2026 in a league in which the Pirates are getting better, the Reds are really competently managed and they are playing good baseball as well, the Cubs still have really good high end talent too. So what are we going to be doing to compete, and how can we lock in some of those top guys that are at the doorstep, ready to go, and show them that, hey, we trust in your ability. We're confident in what you're going to bring to the table, and we think you're going to be the guy for us. And I think that's huge. And even though you maybe will have to deal with, like, if you're Jesus, what if you're thinking, if, wow, Pratt just got paid, are we going to have two of us that are going to be up there? I mean, I can play second base, which definitely helps. If you're Luis Pena, can I play a different position? Where am I going to slot in? So you do have to deal with that mental side what that will bring for the younger prospects. But they still have a long time to go, and it allows you to be patient, allows them to be able to develop, because these guys, we forget how young these prospects are, and how sometimes they maybe might hit a bump in the road in maybe double A or maybe triple A, gives them a little bit of a challenge adjusting. You can give time for maturity to happen as well too. But I think what the Brewers are saying here is that in their farm system rankings or whatever rankings that they're having, there's definitely some priority of what's going to apply to help us out right now here in 2026. And I think making this extension, if you have the money, you have the means, why not do it? So I think I was my lesson, my takeaway of that is that us as analysts, we always think of baseball kind of in those prospect rankings. We kind of live by that, but we have to know that there are MLB front offices that view it differently than we do. And we don't really get that insight of how they view it. It'd be really cool to be able to see how they view that. But that's something that we have to consider when looking at these prospect rankings as well. Yep, yep, right by Huntington Field. Yep. Yeah, no, the Clippers have been incredible. Right now, the International League West, they are ranked second in that league. But yeah, those come from behind wins is what makes it fun. I have a good friend named Derek Kurtz. He goes to every home Clippers game. He texts me about all of it. He actually got the first game. This is probably going to age really well and be something very valuable. He got the lineup card of the Indianapolis Indians after the first game. He went down and was able to grab it. And Konnor Griffin is on it. And sure enough, you begin the week watching Konnor Griffin there, and then you end the week with him now playing in major leagues, which is pretty incredible, if you ask me. But it really was a big week for Columbus. A lot of exciting come from behind wins. They just play a really fun brand of baseball over there as well. So I think it's something that you can keep your eye on. Of course, Bazana, he headlines what's a really exciting lineup for there. And there's only one team that they're ranked behind right now when it comes to minor league baseball and AAA, and that team is the Memphis Redbirds, who is one of my risers. Right now, they are the top team in AAA, 8-1. They were undefeated until this past Sunday, where they dropped game one of a doubleheader to the Norfolk Tides. But they have been incredible. And if you think about it, it just makes sense, Corey. Last year in the Texas League, who was the class of the Texas League? It was the Springfield Cardinals. They dominated as they won both the first half of the Texas League and the second half of the Texas League North by 5 games or more in both of those halves. They finished 88 and 50, and then they dominated in the Texas League playoffs, winning the championship game 13-1 over the Midland Rockhounds. So you're like, okay, this would make sense that a lot of those guys on that team are going to move up to AAA, and they're probably going to be pretty good. But then you lost the star of the team, JJ Weatherall, who was one of the stars of that Texas League first half championship team for Springfield. He moved up all the way to the major league level. You also got guys like Church, who progressed all the way through to the major league level. Those are some of their top prospects over the last few years that have progressed. But they still have some dogs that are absolutely crushing it right now in AAA. So they went 3-0 against AAA Gwinnett. Then they go 5-1 against AAA Norfolk. Some of their top guys, number 8 Cardinals prospect Jimmy Crooks, he's batting 400, 3 home runs to lead the team. He's tied with number 26 ranked prospect, great name by the way, Blaze Jordan, who is bat 480. with 3 home runs as well too. You have some other top 30 guys in the mix, like a guy like Tink Hintz, who's been having some good highlights throughout his minor league baseball career. He's pitching from the bullpen with a 3.86 ERA for the team. You got a couple major league veterans like Scott Bluett, who bounced around the Braves and the Orioles last year. He's right now in the Cardinals system, and he's a major league guy with a lot of experience that's currently in AAA. So having that guy as a reliable bullpen guy is really helpful for a veteran presence. And they're going to take on Charlotte this upcoming week. But yeah, no, the Memphis Redbirds, they are definitely one of my risers, alongside my other riser, which goes to you, Mr. Cory Sparks, as you get ready for your minor league baseball broadcast debut tomorrow, 6:45 Eastern, as the Phils take on the Hartford Yard Goats. Make sure to tune into that, man. Congratulations on taking that next step in your career, man. Proud of you. Yeah, it's a master class. It's impressive what they do year in and year out. And being from Ohio, I think so many people really got tired of it because it felt like the Reds could not break through the Brewers no matter how hard they tried. And they're just overflowing with talent. I did a video last week on Robert Gasser. He was one of my risers last year. He's been a guy that's kind of hovered around Major League Baseball, AAA. But he's exciting. He's going to be another exciting piece for you guys as well too. But it's just completely overflowing. You go to any level of the Milwaukee Brewers system, there is something to be excited about. No matter what. We had Fisher, who's one of the top prospects, and I remember I was getting roasted on the YouTube short saying that I snubbed him from the list on the high A video. So good. I appreciate our viewers. Yeah, if there's anybody that we miss in those videos, feel free to call us out on that, and we love to discuss it, debate it, or even make that player an individual video for them. But again, it's just overflowing. You could do a players to watch at each level. And it could be all Brewers prospects at AAA, AA, High A, and Single A with how good they are. And I'll give you one last riser because I think he deserves it. Cade Arambidi. And if you don't know who he is, he plays for the LSU Tigers. This man went for 4 home runs in one game in their win against Tennessee. Unbelievable stat line. He was interviewed after the game, and again was a huge part why LSU was able to win that game in extras over there. So just super exciting. It was one of those games where people were laughing. Like I was looking at the Reddit chatter, people were saying, "Can a game be given a run rule or a mercy rule, even though it goes to extras because of how big of a game that Aaron Beatty had?" So want to give him a shout out as well. Could not go through the show without highlighting him. Yeah, that's a really good point, especially because the early season games were likely very cold opening weekend games before they had a 6 game trip to Columbus. So honestly, the people that got the best out of it were any of the Columbus fans that decided to go in and get some of those warm early season games. It was kind of up and down as it is and usually in Columbus. It was really warm the first day, then it was like super cold and like rainy the next day, and it kind of went back and forth. But it seemed like a great opening night, and it felt like their fans probably got to see more of Konnor Griffin than the fans did in Indianapolis. And to add salt to the wound, they're not necessarily an affiliate that's that close in distance. It's not an awful drive, but you're gonna have to go through all the whole state of Ohio and then go all the way up to Pittsburgh. Like it's not the most convenient drive if you want to see him in person. And then even from like other major league options, you'd have to maybe look Cincinnati, which is the least likely. Like you'll see a lot of Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, but they already took, I mean, they already had one of those weekend series with each other. So that's one less time that Pittsburgh's going to be traveling to Cincinnati this year already. So, yeah, good point bringing that up. The good news is there's still some really good prospects to see in Indianapolis. But yeah, right now, I mean, that was the most hyped prospect. And to get that, I think it's unfortunate. And then for their ticket sales group, probably, wanted to get opportunities to host at least one home stand. Exactly. Going in, I also call out the depth of the AL East because they've been a little mid. Not gonna hold you. It's still early on in the season. We're only 9, maybe 10 games in for some teams. 9.5 right now because teams are kind of halfway through some of their games tonight. But the Red Sox, the Orioles, and the Blue Jays were all very unimpressive this past weekend. The Red Sox lost at home to the Padres, where, of course, Mason Miller coming into the game late in it pretty much means your team is done for. And we saw, him strike out the side 2 days in a row, which is Mason Miller doing Mason Miller things. But the Red Sox, their fans were saying, sell the team, chanting, sell the team. And you don't want that after your first opening weekend home series of the season. Blue Jays crushed by the White Sox. They were swept and they did not look very sharp. And now they're going to have to come back and deal with the emotions that's going to happen of having to play the Dodgers in that rematch. So that's a game to keep an eye on for the beginning of this week. And then for the Orioles, who's the other side of the story to the Pirates. For the Pirates, picture perfect weekend with Konnor Griffin coming up, having your first home games, and it just being an overall success for them. The other side for the Orioles, a team that invested a ton into their rotation and into some of their star players. Pete Alonso only had 1 hit this past weekend. He's going to figure it out, but right now he's not having a really great season, great start to the year. Gunnar Henderson struggled a little bit to start. Samuel Basayo had the golden sombrero on Sunday, unfortunately for him, and a really tough 4 strikeout day. And then the worst thing for the Orioles has been the rotation. Outside of Trevor Rogers, who, if he keeps pitching the way he is, he's going to be an underrated Cy Young type of candidate for the Orioles. Shane Baz, he actually had a really good start, so I'll give him some credit too. But for Chris Bassett, really, really rough outing this last week. I mean, 2 innings pitched only. Just did not have great command, walked way too many guys. And when he did throw in the zone, it ended up being home runs from guys like Ryan O'Hearn, or got barreled up by O'Neal Cruz, who had a pretty good series as well, too. And now with the Orioles having injuries to guys like Zach Eflin, they're going to have to bring up guys from AAA. So the thing was, the Orioles thought they might even consider a 6-man rotation going into this year. But now they're going into their pitching depth where you had Kate Povich have to go and pitch 5 2/3 of innings because Chris Bassett can only go 2. So instead of Povich being able to start tonight like he was supposed to, now they had to go back into AAA again to grab Brandon Young to come up here and pitch today for the Orioles against the White Sox. So what looked like a pitching staff that was going to be much improved, a lot of optimism in the rotation. Now there's a lot of question marks outside of Rogers and Baz. Bradish hasn't had a great start to the year either, as well too. And if you're not getting routinely good starts of at least 5 innings pitched, 3 earned runs, it's just going to be a matter of time before the bullpen blows up. So not really a good look for them. We'll see though. A lot of time for these teams to get better. But for the Blue Jays, Orioles, Red Sox, it has not been great so far. And for the Yankees, they got to be feeling good. They're starting 7-2, and they have lived up to the expectations so far. And the rotation has been better than what people thought it would be. So that's one that I'd put on the fallers. That rest of that AL East depth. Right. It definitely does. And right now, actually, taking a look at some of the scores, they're trailing 6-1 against the Dodgers at home in that sort of revenge spot. And I think that's a series where, even though it is just like another game, I think it's going to mean a little bit more depending on what this team can do. And I think the mentality of the baseball club is going to be a little bit determined, I think, here by how they can perform in this Dodgers series. Even if they could just take one, I think it would mean the world for this team. But if not, they're going to continue on this slide. But you have a good point there with the Blue Jays. There is a lot to prove, and it's tough in the AL East, especially because it feels like if you don't take advantage of your chance, it could easily slip away from you very quickly. That's kind of the story where in 2023 the Orioles were kind of in that top spot, and then they got knocked off the pedestal pretty quickly. Blue Jays, they are in that risk where the Yankees, they're going to come back, and they're looking like right now they're bouncing back and having a good year. They usually always have an annual June, July slump, so that we can kind of depend on that happening potentially. But then they'll kind of get back into form when they need to. I'd imagine the Red Sox will get back into form, and then the Rays are always going to be pesky, especially now that they're back at the Trop and not at a minor league ballpark anymore. It was exciting to see them back at the Trop today, by the way. Um, but I just think that it's going to be a division where things can slip away from you and your window can close so quick. So yeah, there's a lot to prove. It's a big season in Toronto. Big season for all three of the teams that I mentioned. But yeah, they're in that fallers category. But with baseball, it's a long season. Things can go and change very, very quickly. And there's a lot of games today on this Monday, so we have a lot of opportunities for teams to kind of grab their footing, see if they can have a good couple of series stacked upon and see if they can turn it around real quickly. Yeah, I think it's something that comes with this ABS system where now what used to be the umpires would have all the fault if they make a mistake or make a bad call has turned now into the conversation being, why did you waste your challenges when you could have kept it around? So the fault that used to be on umpires for making bad calls has turned around because now the fault is instead focused on if the players utilize their challenges correctly. If you weren't, good enough with taking the right time to do your challenges and you wasted two of them and now you don't have any left, then it's now on that, they want to prove people wrong, or they want to prove me wrong, and they think I can't control the game, or they don't think I know what the strike. Me, I think it's a bit harder to judge because I've never been an umpire. I've never been in those shoes. And I think it is way more difficult of a job than it is. But it would not shock me if there are certain umpires where, people are chirping at them, people are mad, people are going back and forth. Maybe some guy goes down and starts walking over to first, like Randy Arozarena, before the call is even confirmed by ABS. And I think it's natural. That is the human element of it. What used to be the human element of, balls or strikes being called that now can be overruled. Maybe that's the new evolution of what the human element looks like. When you waste your challenges, it could change how the zone is. But then it shows how, if you're a team, you've got to be really particular about how you utilize your challenges. So if you have two of them, always keeping one in your back pocket until the ninth inning might be a smart decision. But then if you have a high leverage spot, what are you going to do? Are you going to make that decision to challenge something that maybe could win you the game or not? It's tough, but I'm excited to see how teams experiment and learn about how to use the ABS in the best way possible. And we're seeing teams in AAA, they're working strategies in that system as well too. Yes. It happened. It happened this past weekend. Orioles Pirates game two in that opening series for Konnor Griffin. The Orioles ran out of challenges. They used their last one in the top of the ninth on a Gunnar Henderson strikeout. Then the Pirates came up. There was a strike three that if ABS was allowed, which actually Ryan Helsley, he actually tapped his hat, but there was no challenges left for the Orioles, so it didn't matter. But it would have been strike three with the ABS system. And then the very next pitch, the Pirates walk it off on a game-winning RBI single. So it just shows how those can really impact games, and the way that you use your challenges, they do matter.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that ends up being a little bit, oh boy, I'm fighting a couple technical difficulties. So if someone is, if you guys are listening to the podcast itself, there is a chance it just started a few minutes ago because my mic was not coming through. One moment here. Okay, we should be good.
Take your time.
There we go. Okay, we're good. I guess Rust, right? To your point, strategy comes in there, and there was a fascinating conversation between Aaron Boone and Buster Olney a couple of weeks ago. Like as WBC play was going on, they talked about that, and then they talked about this exact scenario that just happened in your Orioles game, right, not too long ago against the Pirates, that you can run out of a challenge and the zone can still expand. And Aaron Boone said that is also where the responsibility of the skipper, which has always been there, to kind of jockey the zone and hold umpires accountable without hopefully overstepping and ruffling some feathers, and then the zone goes in the opposite direction. That's where that skill kind of comes back, where, there's the polite ask that you'll get from a backstop or a coach of, where did that miss? Like we are simply trying to understand the zone. We respect the zone. But all of a sudden, if you do that and you're jockeying back and forth and you ask, where did that miss? And you hear it was high and tight. Well, now all of a sudden you can channel it in, and maybe the umpire in their own right is holding themselves accountable going, well, I just told them that missed before. So if they make the adjustment and they feel like they're on the black of the zone now and they're out of challenges, I think they went about it in a respectful manner. So, I kind of thought back to that conversation between Aaron Boone and Buster Olney of just, you're still going to have, among other duties as assigned for managers, jockeying the umpire a little bit and hopefully not going too far, but kind of meandering what will turn into, again, when you lose your challenges, an invisible, elusive zone that you kind of have to navigate and figure out. Only this time, you might only have like 2 innings to figure it out, as opposed to, the full 9, depending on when you run out. So, yeah, that was a conversation I kind of just wanted to have because we're already seeing it. We're a week and a half to 2 weeks into the season, and human nature, the zone's going to evolve just a little bit, and that human element is going to come back. Before we get to segment 5, I want to give a bonus shout out to our friends over at justbats.com, just in case this did not, the first message did not make it into our podcast. Justbats.com, they are an amazing crew, and again, if you are looking to start your baseball or softball season very, very soon, they've got the bat stickers, they got the engravings, they've got the regrip services, which we're showing again on YouTube. I know for a fact it went through on there. They are the place to go. So we have the link in the description on Spotify. We have the link in the description on Apple Podcasts and on YouTube as well. Huge shout out to our JustBats.com team. Again, beer league, softball, anything. They have the youth bats. They've got everything going on over there. So something to keep in mind for your future endeavors with all of that. We've done segments in the past, mainly dedicated to our farm features. It's called Diamonds in the Rough, exactly what it sounds like, right? Like names that maybe it's not your Rock Chalowskis or your Gasparinos or your Justin LeBrons. Might have just named 3 top 10 picks off right there, at least 2, right? It's guys who might be flying under the radar because their own lineup is stacked, or they just don't go to an LSU or a UCLA or a Fairfield or a Coastal Carolina, right? Like, so we're gonna shine a light on a couple of players today who are shining through and should be recognized as diamonds in the rough. I can quickly kick us off here with Ryan Costello. Maryland's got a sneaky good baseball program. I know the SEC is where it's at in terms of blue bloods right now, and LSU's reign and what Ole Miss has been able to do in years past is a huge reason for that. The Big Ten is building something, though. UCLA right now, Illinois has been respectable at times. Maryland producing recent talents like a first-round pick in Matt Shaw, to my Cubs, to name one of a few. The rankings have to update since there's already been some movement, but last week, Ryan Costello was the only freshman in the country to be in the top 30 of NCAA for home runs. That's when he had 11. He already has 13. Number 12 came against UCLA in a conference matchup. This kid can rake. The Big Ten, again, largely thanks to UCLA, is rising up. I don't know if they're going to compete with the SEC this year, but they're getting closer to that point. And Costello is in that next wave as a redshirt freshman. And I've brought up the SEC on multiple occasions. Costello played 15 games with those Tigers. And guess what happens when you have that stacked of a roster? Talented guys are going to go elsewhere to play. That's what Costello did. He's an everyday starter for Maryland, and he's tearing the cover off the baseball right now. So wanted to give him his flowers. Some people would see that as a risk. Hey, kid, wait your turn. Wait until your junior or senior year. Ryan wanted the valuable reps, and he's getting them at Maryland right now.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick. Before I jump into some key individuals, I do want to recap some of the best series that happened this past week, just for some extra context. So we talked about UCLA and how good they are. They just swept USC, who was one of the last 2 undefeated teams earlier on this year before they kind of started getting into conference play. This was like a generational weekend for UCLA. Not only did their women's basketball team win the national championship over a really good South Carolina team, but then they come on to the baseball diamond and they take down USC in convincing fashion in a sweep. So really good stuff there. We go and look at some other risers and fallers. I didn't even get to kind of mention this as a faller just because I knew we talked about in the college section. Arkansas, they have really, really struggled over their last few series. They are now 20-13 on the year after being pretty much a consensus top 5, top 10 team. They are 2-7 in their last 9 with losses to South Carolina, who's one of the bottom teams in the SEC. They were swept at Florida. And worst of all, they dropped a midweeker to Missouri State. That was a really exciting game. Huge win for Missouri State, a program that's had some really good ups, and they've made a couple of regionals recently. But still, not a good look for Arkansas. And things kind of got worse for them, losing a series to Auburn. Alabama, they remained hot. They had a series win against Oklahoma. And Bama, they have won 8 of their last 9 in the SEC. And they got sweeps over 2 top 25 teams, Florida and Auburn, in that stretch. They went from kind of being, kind of out of the mix to now being one of the top dogs. Speaking of dogs, Georgia, the Bulldogs, they had an impressive sweep over the other Bulldogs, Mississippi State, a team that was rolling going into that weekend. But the Bulldogs, they have won now all 4 conference series, and they have won 6 SEC games in a row. So I want to highlight them. From a mid-major standpoint, I want to list this entire team because they're hitting home runs like crazy. So I cover Maryland Eastern Shore out of the NEC. There's a team in the league, Farley Dickinson, who usually hasn't had the best years in baseball. Remember their one really good year in basketball when they upset Purdue, but they're getting it done on the baseball diamond, and right now they rank first in the NEC. Something that stands out is how many home runs they have as a team. They have 48 home runs right now as a team in 28 games. They are just going crazy when it comes to the power hitting. The second place team in the league right now is 32, which is LIU, who also have some really good players and really good standouts. But I got to give credit to the FDU lineup. They have a guy named Jeremy Cheeseman, who was ranked as one of the top two-way players. He actually won two-way player of the week because he is their Friday starter as well as an 8-home run guy for that team. So he's one of the best two-way guys in college baseball. That would be kind of an underrated guy. Also an all-name team guy, Jeremy Cheeseman. I mean, you can't forget that name. You have some other guys like Diego Retta, who had a 3-home run game recently. You have Jimmy Mantuano, who's one of the more impressive hitters, batting .380 for FDU. Got some really good power too. So they just have a really stacked lineup of guys, and it's led by also Hunter Ray, who has 14 home runs to lead the charge for FDU. So if you want to see some home run hitting, go check out FDU and the Knights as they go into their next conference series. Because right now in the NEC, which all play their games for free on NEC Front Row for the most part, there's going to be a roulette right now that's going to happen where FDU is going to need to play the other top dogs, which are LIU and Stonehill. So wanted to give some shine to that league because there's a lot of good ball that's being played over there. Another underrated conference as well. If you don't know college baseball and you're just starting to follow it, Sun Belt is an elite league. Sun Belt Conference has some really great teams up at the top. Southern Miss is obviously the team that highlights it, but they also have some shockingly good depth with teams like Arkansas State that can pop up and do some really cool things too. So that's what I want to give some highlight on to. 48 home runs for the team for FDU, and they are having one of their best baseball seasons they've had. I believe they're up to 13-2 in league, I want to say. So it's been a really good year for them.
Unbelievable, man. That's one of those teams, right? Like, if you can find a mid-major that has a couple of good starters that can just hold down the fort, bullpen is where you'll sometimes see that separation. But if they can jump out to a 7-2 lead over a team that no one saw them beating, watch out for that. I'm glad you brought up LIU. You and I were talking about a couple of their players that are hitting around or above 400. And if you go into NCAA Division I, you know, the filter under NCAABaseball.com, most offensive categories are going to have one, if not two, LIU hitters in there. So there's some sneaky good baseball in that region.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you a couple of them just because I seen their game. I called one of their games really recently. Ryan Rivera would be up there. Michael Polubensky is one of the top guys too as well. So just thinking about those types of players that whoever wins that, they're going to be put in some random regional, probably somewhere in the ACC. I'd imagine like a Chapel Hill type of regional or something like that, just because of regionality wise. They probably want to send the NEC teams to like one of those Carolinas or Virginias. And don't be surprised if they like mess around and, you know, they have really good offensive output for a game here or a game there. That's always the exciting part is these midweek games plus also what you see in the regionals. You can have some interesting score lines that will pop up and out of nowhere where, you know, Missouri State is leading on against Oklahoma State a couple of years ago. I remember that one. You had Central Michigan that was beating Florida into the 9th inning before the Gators ultimately came back. That was Jack Caglione, Florida, by the way. So it's just those types of things can happen. And it's a bit charming. It's kind of similar to what you might see in March Madness a little bit. Some of that similar type of energy that's there in those midweek games and in those regionals as well. And it might be even a more pure form, especially if the March Madness, they decide to add more teams, which is what the word on the street is.
Yeah, that would be really interesting. Caglione was another, you were talking about Cheeseman, another one of those two-way guys who played that type of identity through college, and some people were wondering, is he still going to toe the rubber and throw low to mid-90s? We'll have to see. I do want to track back and just great job going through, some notable runs that teams are going on and a good, run through of how the top 25 is kind of stacked up in general. We brought up the Florida Gators on this channel a couple of weeks ago as a team that was another consensus top 10, top 15. Liam Peterson has been brought up on a couple of occasions, projected first-round pick going into this year's draft. They were turning the corner. They had an impressive win over number 20 Florida State. And then, as you'd mentioned, South Carolina, they sweep them. They have not been doing too well in the SEC this year. And then after a couple of games, they beat number 10 Florida State as they went up the rankings, and then beat Arkansas on 3 occasions too. And that kind of overlaps into what you were saying. But Florida's blemish in the last 10 games is they got swept by Alabama. As you were mentioning,
that's right.
Like Florida
was hot, man.
Yeah, they were turning it around. They had their ranked votes. They were in the top 25. And Alabama was the immovable force for this train that was rolling through conference play. I think it's just important to mention, right? We know UCLA is a very well-rounded group. It's more than just Rock Chalowski. But Sedric, I think it's safe to say at this point, Alabama is more than just Justin LeBron now.
Yeah, I think right now Alabama's at this point where they have to be seen as one of the favorites potentially to win in Omaha with how they have managed this SEC slate, how they've managed this SEC schedule, and then just how they have had dominance. Like, not only are they winning the series 2 out of 3 against teams like Florida, but they're just consistently sweeping. You had a sweep over Florida. You had a sweep against Auburn, who at the time, Auburn peaked in the top 5 when they were really rolling with wins over top 10 teams like Georgia Tech. They had the big win over Texas as well, too, at home that stood out for Auburn. So there was a team that was red hot. In Alabama, it was like they hit a brick wall over there against their rivals. And then Alabama carried that on the road. They took on a good Oklahoma team that has some really good pitchers in that level. Cameron Johnson is one of the best pitchers, 6'6", lefty with some really good stuff. Is the Friday guy for Oklahoma. They fared well against him. And they have some really good leadership on that team. Obviously, Justin LeBron is one of the guys that is like the big name. But another guy is Brady Neal. He's been incredible for Alabama, batting over that 340, 330 echelon for the Crimson Tide. So they have just really kept it going. So I've been impressed with how they have done it. And right now, it really seems like Alabama and Georgia have been like the two kind of top teams. It almost feels like it's football season with the way that those two teams are at the top of the SEC. We're going to see. You mentioned Florida. They have a massive, massive series coming up this week, and just a massive week, because not only are they going to have to go up against Florida State, which is going to be their midweek opponent right after Florida had a series sweep over Arkansas, and then I believe they lost the series to a really good Ole Miss team. It was 2-1, though, so they at least got one out of it. But they're going to have to play Georgia coming up this week. So I think it's huge, and I love how these teams, they stack these midweek games that gives you these one games against really tough teams. And for the case of Florida, Miami's really good, Florida State's really good, and that's where you have all these midweek games in there, and it just doesn't get easier. You have Auburn coming up the weekend after. You have a sneaky good Bethune-Cookman team in the middle week as well, and we saw Florida almost lose to FAMU earlier this season, which is another SWAC team that's at the top, tied with Bethune-Cookman over there. So you just really have no opportunities to sleep if you're Florida. Even, the high points of the World Series that they lost to earlier this year. Anything can happen with these results, and these teams, they really just want to make sure that, first of all, you keep treading water. You make sure you make the SEC tournament, and you have to, be one of the top teams to make it. They do have a lot of teams that do make it, though. I believe it's like 12 out of the 16 make it.
Usually, yeah.
So it's really good chances to make your way into the SEC tournament. But once you did that, you just got to be playing your best baseball at the right time, especially when those regionals turn on. Hope you get a great draw, and hope you don't get some buzzsaws that happen to just be right underneath the echelon to host a regional, and you get those types of teams, and then you want to avoid like one of those mid-major teams that can be a spoiler that has either a scary offense or some like MLB caliber pitcher. But it's going to be exciting. SEC baseball is one of the most exciting things, because every week you're probably going to have anywhere between 4 to 6 matchups that are top 25 matchups. And even when it's not top 25 matchups, you got to watch out, because those games become instant trap games. We saw it this week too. Kentucky, who was the early on, they were the hottest team in the SEC. but they've also kind of hit a wall too. They drop one to Missouri, which is Missouri and South Carolina are kind of at the bottom of the league right now. And if you're in the top, you can't really afford to lose any of those games, because every game you drop against Missouri or drop against South Carolina is going to just make it even more pressure to have to turn around and try to at least get a sweep over one of the top dogs in the league. So again, every game and every series is such high stakes in the SEC. And it's going to be so exciting to see how it progresses. Florida and Georgia, big matchup to watch coming up this week. And you're going to see teams really get hot and cold. It almost feels like a mini MLB in that way. A mini American League or a mini National League, where you're going to see some teams maybe be front runners, but there's going to be streaky teams that are going to get hot here or get hot there. And it's so exciting to watch. I can rave about SEC baseball for a long time. My good buddy, he's a Mississippi State grad. So he's always talking to me about his Bulldogs, and we would watch we actually watched Mississippi State's playoff run together when they won the national championship, and that's kind of how I got in to watching SEC baseball. Great memories with that team, and now I've kind of fallen in love with just following along with what's going on, because it is exciting.
Oh yeah, it shines through, man. Like, it's an ultra competitive conference. It's the cream of the crop right now. And if you're following our channel, if you're following this podcast, you would know about over 2 months ago, because it was February 1st, when college baseball really started to get underway, we started covering the NCAA, because we realized, I think we knew, but a lot of these top-end prospects, they're not getting enough hype for their amazing performances before they get drafted. And their journeys start in, Major League Baseball is the league that more than anybody else right now, you're getting drafted out of high school, outside of what hockey will do with, juniors and that type of thing. But no, there's so much to cover. And even though minor league baseball is in full swing now, all 4 levels, and then Major League Baseball as well, is in play and their opening days have happened, we will still be covering the road to Omaha, of course. And as these conference tournaments get underway not too long from now, and then you get the regionals, you get all the way towards the end, where you're likely going to see a Coastal or an LSU or maybe a UCLA this year really make a deep run. We're going to be right on top of that as well. But, well put, Sedric, right? Whether it's your midweeks or your conference play, if you're in the SEC, it's kind of about surviving your slump and snapping it. Like, if your slump is 3 or 4 games, you're probably going to be okay. If it turns into a bad month, you might not host a game in your tournament. Like, you might not be the better seed in your own conference tournament. And then don't look now, but even though that conference is ultra competitive, you might be left out of the road to Omaha altogether because you had a bad month.
Yep, and ironically, you might end up in a regional where you're facing somebody in your league, which happens
Which you don't want to see if you're in the SEC. Yeah. You don't want to see those.
You want to control your own destiny. You want to be home. You want to be able to host a regional and maybe even host a super regional. And it all starts with, can you finish the top half? Can you crack it in the top level and be in that top group? And right now we're seeing teams like Arkansas who are trending towards the wrong direction. And then you see Alabama, who started off in the wrong direction. I believe they were swept at Kentucky to start the year. And then it's been rising and rising and rising. And then consistent teams like Georgia have been going up. LSU, who started off kind of rough, now is starting to round into form with that series win at Tennessee. Tennessee, that's a team that also has been struggling. So it's just exciting. There's always something new to talk about over there.
I was going to say, we haven't even brought up Tennessee yet with all the amazing alums they've had and how they haven't really lived up to expectations fully, but it's a stacked conference. So keep an eye out for that. The Sun Belt, great call there too. There's so much good parity in college baseball too, where upsets can snap in at any moment. Before we end the episode, there is a chance that the podcast version on Spotify and Apple Podcasts is cut off a significant amount. If that is the case, go on over to YouTube and we'll have our graphics up and everything like that as well. But I'm going to work extra hard to get as much of this podcast out as possible. Apologies for the technical difficulties. I identified the issue. It was just a little too far into the episode to go back and retrace everything. But Sedric, thank you so much for joining. Thank you for the kind words as well. Really, really looking forward to our own AA opening day here in Baseball Town, Reading, Pennsylvania. As Sedric brought up, if you want to follow me a little bit, we're going to be on Bally Live, MiLB.TV if you want to go the subscription route, or WEEU. That's the beauty of minor league ball. There's typically a radio affiliate nearby where you can listen to all the games for free as well. So really looking forward to that, and a lot of great minor league baseball coming up.
Yeah, man, you're the man. You're gonna do so great this series. We're excited to watch you. Anybody who's listening right now, make sure to go and check out the Fighting Phils all throughout the year, especially those home games, because that's where you're gonna see our man Cory Sparks on there as well, bringing some of that stuff that we built up, all the knowledge that we had. Now you can apply that to the live broadcast, and we're just gonna, give some credit to the Phillies organization and Redding for identifying your talent and seeing what we all saw.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you very much. And same with UMES, identifying your talent. Are you covering any games coming up this next week?
Yeah, so we're going to have our road game against Del State. So that's actually going to be not too far away from your neck of the woods, about an hour north. And then we have our 9 games in 10. 9 out of 10 games will be at home. So we'll have Wagner coming to town. We'll have Mercier's coming to town. And then the last weekend home series against rivals Norfolk State. And what's a long running rivalry series between those two teams in baseball. So it should be a very fun last kind of stretch. Weather's getting nice and warm. We're getting people out to the ballpark after our brand new renovations to the fields.
That's right.
So we're excited to see what's going on. So it's going to be good. Good chances to call a lot of the action, do some announcing, and just be excited to call some HBCU baseball.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate you and everything you do and taking the time. If you listen to or watch this episode, thank you for your time. You can always go into our live chat or any of our social media accounts, which are linked below, if you would like us to cover a certain prospect or a certain team or a certain storyline, your input, what you want to see in the minor league levels of baseball, and even beyond that in college ball. That is what we are all about. That is what we are here for. Apologies again for the technical difficulties. We will be better next week, and we will see you next Monday.
Every story starts somewhere, and in baseball, that somewhere is the minors. The breakout stars,
Early on in day 3 of the draft, the Pirates called.
the wild moments, and the prospects you need to know about.
A sub-3 ERA in both single and double A.
This is Minor League Weekly, your inside look at the future of the game.